Hi, welcome back to Baskin Belief Systems. I'm Tracy Baskin, the Doctor of Beliefs, and today we're going to be talking about a beautiful subject, and that is who you are sexually. This technique that I use is very simple. You'll be able to pick it right up. I'm going to show you some examples and kind of take you through. And, this type of technique is something that allows you to dig real deep down inside and kind of come up with how you came up with the sexual part of who you are. And this actually is a beautiful thing to actually discover. Like I said, I use this with my clients. It works very wonderful for them. It also, you can actually use this on anything that you want. So if you want to know who you are financially, spiritually, anything, you can actually do this with. But today we're going to be doing it on the sexual person of you. This is your blueprint. This is how you actually are going to know, without a shadow of a doubt, where you get your sexual beliefs from and why you do the things that you do on a sexual manner. And before we begin, I'd like to kind of tell you and ask you a question as to what do you think sexuality is? A lot of people, when I actually say, I'm doing a sexuality piece on your timeline, they actually usually go to like sexual orientation, or they go to like, what do you mean, like when I first had, intercourse? But actually, that's just a part of what this is. And so we're actually going to talk about something a little bit more. You are going to have, in this timeline, obviously your first sexual encounter with yourself, with the outside world, but it's actually made up of your thoughts. So what were your very first thoughts about sexuality, about, intimacy, like when you very first had a feeling of, what sex was, what it meant to engage with yourself on a pleasurable level and also with someone else. And actually, it goes way back. Usually, I mean, some 3 years old, some 5, some 9. I mean, it'll be your own blueprint, so it'll be tied to you, and that's what's so wonderful. It's like a thumbprint. It is your unique journey on how your belief systems were created in sexuality. And sexuality is something that, how I describe sexuality and what it means to me is that it is our number one motivator to act and behave in interaction with other people. So it's about the pleasure center of the brain. And you can have anything that your very first memory, but that's the question that you're going to ask yourself first. The very first thing that you're going to ask is, what is my first memory of sex or sexuality? Some people, will go to the very first memory of sex education in school, or it might be, my caregiver, my mom or dad or sister or whoever it is, told me, that, I like to, dance around naked, or, whatever it is for you. So that's the important thing. There is no right or wrong. There's just you. And so you're going to ask yourself this question. You're going to get out a piece of paper and you're going to, write out your history. So I know that you probably, in school you had, where you had your history books and you saw this little line going across and you had these little marks and it said, okay, in, 1776, we basically became independent, for America, whatever it is, or, Theodore Roosevelt, was an American president at this year, and this is what was going on. So you're actually going to do, sorry, I can't talk today. You're actually going to do this for yourself today. And it's going to be something that will be lifelong. So you're going to start with your first memory. and then you're going to go to the next and the next, all the way up until you're the age that you are now. So here we go. I'm going to show you an example, and let's walk through this to see how simple it is for you to find out who you are on a sexual level. So here we see that this is called the sexual blueprint, and this is just a wonderful depiction of kind of all the intertwined things that are within us and our belief systems with sex. But the very first thing that you do, so you see here, we've got sexual timeline. This is an example. And this is just stuff I kind of put in. And so if you see over here, you'll see that it'll say first memory or thought that comes to your mind when you ask yourself the question, what, is my first memory of sex? What is that? And so, it might be, okay, third grade, I'm 8 years old, and, it's, school and it's sex education. I'm learning about, what my body's going to be doing. It could be, that you're with the girls or you're with the boys, just depending on where they put you. Then what you're going to do is you're going to kind of say, okay, so what was this like? And then you're going to kind of go to the next thing. What is my next memory? And your next memory might be, okay, I was in first grade. I held, this boy's hand or this girl's hand. And it's just whatever comes to mind. So you start to kind of like free associate with whatever comes in. That's the most important part. Like I said, there's no right, there's no wrong. Then you'll go to your third memory, your thought that comes to mind. This one example is, I'm 11 years old. I'm in sixth grade. It could be in class, and I found a girl in class so beautiful. That could be, same sex. You could be a girl feeling that, or you could be a boy, but it's just a memory. And then, what is my fourth memory? You can just go, what's my next memory is probably the best thing to do. What is my next memory or thought when I think about, what comes to my mind when I think about, sex and the memory of, my encounters. This one was, 9 years old, fourth grade, started feeling pleasure from touch in the private area. This is very normal, very common. And then you're going to do that, all the way up until your current age, no matter what it is. And then the next thing that you're going to do, or you can do this simultaneously. So just like the next slide here, which is about just like your very first memory. This person's very first memory was third grade, 8 years old. They were in sex education. That's the first thing. Now you ask yourself some questions, like just write about what your memory is. Just start writing. And it says, here, this is some questions that you can, that might help you kind of, write is, what was my reaction or feeling about this? What was it like to be 8 years old and sex education? What was everybody doing around me? What was, some of the, my caregivers, what did they tell me about sex education, or did they? Then, you do this with each memory that you have. You start to call what I call fleshing it out. You start to kind of go, okay, so the next memory was first grade, 6 years old, holding a boy's hand. And so what was your reaction to that? Kind of what do you remember thinking or feeling about what, holding a boy's hand? Was it not a big deal? Were you like, woo, this was awesome? Just what was it like? And then you just like you see the next one here. It's 11 years old, sixth grade, found a girl in class beautiful. And if you're a girl and, you started seeing yourself attracted to the same sex, this obviously is very, common with same-sex orientation people. And, you just ask yourself, whether it's a girl or boy or, opposite sex, it does not matter. What you do is that you say, okay, did I tell anyone about my thoughts? That I was having these, attraction, to this person, or did you tell the person? If so, what was the reaction, or what was the reaction of you telling people your thoughts? And if not, why didn't you say anything? What were you, what was the motivation behind that? You just, start kind of just getting deep down and just start kind of, unpiling what exactly all this means. And then the next example here, the 9-year-old in fourth grade who felt pleasure from touch in the private area, and then you kind of write your experiences down. Did you tell anybody? Did anybody tell you about your body, and that it does have pleasure, and that it's normal and it's okay? Or did they not? Did they shame that? Did they, or was it completely opposite of that spectrum where they were just like yes, and it made you uncomfortable? I mean, you just go with what it is that is inside you. What were the messages that you think that you were getting? And once you start doing this is just 4 examples here, but once you start doing this, you're going to begin to see some themes like, oh yeah, okay, I can see why, maybe I, like to be very quiet while I have sex. Or maybe it's, okay, now I understand why I'm a screamer. It could be anything at all. The next thing I want to show you is maybe some questions to kind of start, getting your brain, in that mode of, starting to write down. So here are some questions. There are a multitude of questions, but this, so here are just a few maybe to help you get started. Some people have, like maybe a writer's block or don't know where really to start, but some questions that you can ask yourself is, what is intimacy to me? What is intimacy? I mean, do you know what your definition of intimacy is? Write it down. Let yourself know. This is very important because there's a lot of perceptions and definitions of intimacy. How do you know when somebody loves you? Have you actually asked yourself that question? Because a lot of people think that they know what that means to them, but they really, they just know like 1 or 2 things. And once they're able to kind of answer some of these questions, they can kind of look back at their timeline, or they can do it while they're doing their timeline, and they can say, oh, it looks like that, I feel like when someone loves me, how do I know that? Maybe it's, they are, supportive of you. And what does support mean? Maybe it's physical, touch. There's a thing called love languages, which is pretty popular that people know about. The next one is, what do I remember learning about my sexual self? Right or wrong, shame or welcome? That's a very good question to ask yourself. How do you, I have sex with myself and someone else? This is a huge question. Have you ever thought about how do you have sex? How does that happen for you? That can just go off in all kinds of different directions, and it's a wonderful place to go. So I am comfortable letting a sexual partner know what feels good to me. This is a huge one. A lot of people don't say, hey, this is what I want. They think that it should be automatic. And it's only automatic when you know yourself first. So if you don't know how to please your own self or what that is, how can you express that or even physically show that? That might be a good question to ask yourself. So next kind of question, do I know what an orgasm is? That's an excellent question because there are so many types of orgasms, and that's a whole nother segment and series that I will be doing. So here's another one here is, I am comfortable asking my partner what feels good to them. This is an excellent, excellent thing to think about. But if you can think about, what, your memories are, and, kind of do this timeline, I promise you that you are going to find something within yourself that you didn't know that was there, that helps you understand who you are on a sexual level. Who am I sexually is the question. And these are some steps that you can go to help you understand who you are on a sexual level. It is a beautiful thing. And if you need any help, with a timeline, I actually give this to my clients. You just can call me up and I would be more than happy to schedule something with you. So if this was helpful, I hope that it was. Please like, share, and subscribe. That would be just a beautiful thing as well. You can leave comments. I'm always here and available. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.